Hi, this is Pooja with Mom to Mom OB, where real women get information from real doctors about the issues concerning them. Today's video is the first part on a series about childbirth and is really intended for women who are first-time moms or anyone who just wants to learn more about the birth process. So let's get started talking a little bit about what the media depicts childbirth to be like and what childbirth is not. So when you see Hollywood movie stars have a waterfall of amniotic fluid in the grocery aisle and then rush to the hospital and have their baby within minutes, that's not real life. So the birth process actually takes a lot longer than most people realize. It can actually start days before you're in what we call active labor. And that pre-labor period is when a lot of really important physiologic things happen. So there's this whole process where the cervix, that starts out as sort of a rigid tire, becomes really soft and pliable, and we call that cervical ripening. This is really important because the stretchiness and elasticity of the cervix is what's going to allow for it to dilate without causing trauma to your body. So that might feel to a pregnant mom like crampiness and maybe even contraction pain that sort of comes and goes, is irregular and not super painful, or maybe it is painful for a moment but then sort of subsides. And it's perfectly reasonable to call your doctor or go in for a visit during that period and kind of get checked out and see where you are in terms of dilation. Now, as long as you are less than 6 centimeters, you're going to be in this early phase of labor that we call latent labor. And so even if you do start dilating 1 or 2 centimeters, you may be encouraged to stay at home for that process. And there's a lot of really good evidence for why you should do that. And part of it is that we found that admitting women in the hospital, restricting their movement and hooking them up to a lot of monitors during this latent phase actually causes a lot of frustration. It can take, a day or more to go through the process of latent labor, to go from being firm and closed or even 1 centimeter dilated to 5 or 6 centimeters dilated with painful regular contractions, what we call active labor. So this latent labor phase can last for a long time, sometimes days, is slow. It includes the process of cervical ripening, and it can be done at home. It is really important during this phase that you move, that you stretch, that you do things that make you feel comfortable, and that you're able to rest and just kind of let your body do the work during this process. And then, if you do experience rupture of membranes, the gush of fluid that most women experience is more like a trickle, not the cascading waterfall or Niagara Falls that you see on TV. So it might just be a really subtle trickle of water that will clue you into the fact that your amniotic sac is ruptured. And there are a couple indicators that mark a time where you really should come into the hospital, and where sort of relaxing at home is no longer the best strategy. And so some of the hallmarks of a time to come to the hospital are if you feel that trickle of water with your amniotic sac breaking. And that can be very, very early in the process, or it could be when you start transitioning to active labor. And so that transition to active labor is another indicator that you should come to the hospital. And that transition occurs when you have painful regular contractions every 2 to 5 minutes apart, and where you start dilating. Now, you're not going to know if you're at home if you start to dilate. So this would be a time to come into the hospital and get checked out. And there's a chance that you might be sent home and told, your bag of water is intact and you're actually only 2 centimeters. And that's fine. That happens. And, we see women all the time that we encourage to go home, take a walk, and maybe come back a little bit later in the day. So don't feel discouraged if you go to the hospital and you're told that you're not quite yet at that point. But then if your contractions become more painful, go back. And at that point, you might be closer to that 5 or 6 centimeters that we keep as that benchmark for when we suspect that you're going into active labor. Now, active labor occurs much faster, and that's going to be the topic that we discuss at our next video session. So for now, we'll look forward to talking to you. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I'll try to get to all of them. And we're just so happy that you were able to join us today. Thanks.